Welcome to the Watch and Wine podcast, a show about cinema brought to you by Mercy, Maria, and Rowan. You can find us on Discord for in-depth film discussion and live podcast sessions, or the Instagram account for more film content. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Rowan, and you can find me on Letterboxd at Rosés, and you can find me on Twitter at Rowan_Ros. I'm joined by my co-hosts Maria and Mercy.
Hey, I'm Maria. You can find me on Letterboxd as Maria ROM.
And I'm Mercy. You can find me on Letterboxd at literally_Mercy.
Today we're joined by a guest, one of the moderators from the Watch and Wine server, Lauren.
Hey, how's it going? I'm also on Letterboxd at LoloZap.
So we're going to start with a random questions today, some of the questions that have been submitted by people in the Watch and Wine Discord server. Maria, do you want to do a little bit of an introduction on what the Watch and Wine server is?
Sure. Well, the server is mainly focused on foreign, art house, and horror movies. So if you're interested in any of that, this could be your place, hang out.
Yeah, cool. We also have another couple of branches of social media. We have an Instagram that is going to start that I think Mercy is running. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, so our Instagram is going to be a little bit of a promotional space specifically for our Film Monthly topics. So we'll do some streams here in the server, and we have a monthly theme. We all get together and have some discussions. And then also we do a weekly roulette, so you can get paired up with someone in the server and get recommended a film that you might otherwise not be exposed to. So we have some fun, engaging activities, and the Instagram is going to feature those so you can find out how to get more involved.
Great. So we're also going to have a Twitter for the server and, just the Watch and Wine name in general coming up soon. So once that's going, we'll promote that and tell you how to find that. Until then, we'll get straight into the questions. Okay, so our first question is from the user Pretty Good in the Watch and Wine Discord server. And they ask, what are some of our most memorable theater experiences? And I actually have an answer for this if anyone else... unless anyone else wants to go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So I live in Australia, as you can probably tell by my accent, and in Australia we don't really have packed theaters like I gather you do in America. We don't have any kind of sessions with more than 10 people, just on average. We usually have 5 to 10 people in a theater, at least in my area, so we don't get that kind of atmosphere, like clapping and cheering. We don't get any of that annoying stuff, even though, I don't know, that sounds pretty cool to me, but I guess it would get annoying after a while. So, yeah, basically every time I go to the theater, I'm sitting around like 5 other people, so there's no vibe, even though the theaters are massive, so it's completely empty. So the only exceptions to that is big kind of event movies, like big blockbusters that are really hyped, and I got the chance to go to see Avengers Endgame in IMAX when I was kind of into that kind of thing, and even though it wasn't kind of like the greatest movie, the hype was sort of there, and it was the only movie that I remember going to where I was in a packed theater. There were hundreds. It was like a fucking sporting event. Everyone was cheering and whooping, and it was just a really great atmosphere. And there's moments where everyone was clapping that you'd never, even it was annoying, like, granted, but you never get that atmosphere anywhere else in Australia. From what I find, so that was pretty enjoyable for me personally.
Yeah, the last couple of Marvel movies that I've seen with like lots of people have been fun. The end of Endgame, the like 11-year-old girls sitting in front of me and my friends like were like getting up, and of course my friend Emma's like crying because she cries at every movie, but the kids were like, the bad guy's not supposed to win. What? Like, it was just so. It was just really funny.
Do you mean Infinity War?
Yeah, that one. The one before Endgame.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, now that you mention that, I think I went to that one too. I think that one was a bit busier than usual. Anyway, I don't want to annoy Maria by talking about Marvel more than we have to.
I was gonna say Marvel is usually a very banned topic in our server, so
not because I think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's just because we want to kind of keep the focus on more specific genres like horror and foreign movies and stuff. So Does anyone else have an answer for the question?
I back when I had a lot more free time and I was significantly younger, I had a friend in high school and we waited about 13 hours in line to see the Hunger Games catching fire. And so we got in line. It was like 7 something in the morning, and then our showing was at night. And it was at the time when, theaters were doing like the crazy long lines, like out the door in the sun, and you would just sit there all day in the hopes that you could get into the theater and get the best seat. So it was worth it, but it was very time consuming. And I wouldn't ever do it again.
I can't even imagine a line going
Yeah.
outside the door.
Mhm.
Like that happened one time actually. The only time I've ever seen it happen is The Force Awakens in like 2015, but that's the only time I've ever seen
Yeah.
the line be longer than like 5 people.
Yeah, the Star Wars
Isn't that the
films,
Star
I think,
Wars?
have,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, they've brought them out
Mhm.
people in large quantities.
Well, it wasn't
It was
just. Sorry, go.
I was gonna say it was a really weird vibe at the theater that I saw The Force Awakens because there were so many people in line, like in the building, and it was this weird like multiplex downtown with like it was right on the corner, but it was like 4 stories high. So they had a bunch of screens, all showing the same movie, and it was just a weird vibe of people coming out and like, I mean, I like spoiler alert, but Han Solo dies, and like everyone was really quiet, and it felt like I don't know. There was just this weird vibe where it seemed like someone was going to yell out a spoiler or,
Like a very morbid sort of
yeah, I don't know. Star Wars fans
somber.
are kind of the worst. Like fan base maybe. I feel like that's
Every fan
not
base
too
is bad.
controversial, but yeah.
Maria, do you have any experiences you want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not very a theater person. I mean, not in a commercial way. Like I do used to go to the theaters frequently, but I don't know. I get overwhelmed by crowds easily, so I try to go on days that I know that nobody's gonna be there because here going to the cinema is kind of a sort of a big thing. So every weekend, the lines for any movie are like I don't know meters and meters and meters of line to get to
Wow.
the movie. So yeah, I don't like it.
Is that
So
because
yeah, I
of like cost of the ticket price, or what makes it such a big event?
no, I think it's because my city. I mean, my city is pretty artsy, but also it's very boring. So I guess the only thing to do here, besides going to the bars or clubs, is going
Uh,
to the cinema. So we have a wide variety of movies, but we have 7 million people here, so it gets very crowded very easily.
that's so cool.
It's cool how we can kind of
No,
well, it's cool that we can kind of contrast our different experiences. Like for someone who like rarely sees that sounds pretty cool to me. Like not the lines part, but just I don't know. It feels like there'd be a really cool energy, but it seems like you guys don't feel the same way just because you're exposed to that all the time.
we have one cinema here that is Guillermo del Toro. You know, this director from
Yeah.
The Chef of Water and Pan's Labyrinth.
Oh yeah,
He has his own cinema theater here, which is huge and it's amazing. But that one is almost always alone, and as it is placed in one of the loneliest places of the city, I get scared to go there because if it gets dark, then it gets like dangerous. So I don't really go there, but it is an amazing theater. I really love that theater. Kudos to Guillermo del Toro. I really love it.
is that a common like? I wonder if it's a common thing for kind of directors to own their own theater or like theater kind of company.
Hmm.
Like,
I don't know.
yeah, because I've never really heard of that sort of thing. Like just directors having their own theater. Like I assume it doesn't just show his movies. Like it's got a. Is it just like a normal theater?
Yeah, it's not. Well, it is mostly art house, and foreign cinema.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty interesting at least. Do we want to move on to the
Mhm.
second question?
Yeah.
So Boom, another user in the Watch and Wine server, asks, what are some of the worst Letterboxd reviews that we've seen, and by extension, which are some of the best ones that we've seen?
I kind of hate all the mainstream letterbox users that are always on the main page, like Brad Pitt and Maria.
Maria is calling out top letterbox users here.
No,
I
no.
like Red Pit.
No, I mean the
I mean,
users from Letterboxd.
if we're calling out Letterboxd, I think we should call it the super generic, like whenever you go to the like recent reviews, those are always I
I
don't know.
mean,
Sometimes I
recent
look and I'm like,
everything. Whatever
yeah,
you sort
like
by new on
this is
any
a
kind
one
of...
sentence, like extremely positive review of a really dull movie, but I'm
The reviews are
glad you
almost
enjoyed it.
always, like, outliers as well. Like, they're always, like, either really bad or, like, 5 stars.
hmm I'm gonna call out my good friend Josh because I really disagree. I mean, it's his opinion. Art is very subjective.
Josh, who
So
is
is like
listening right now.
yeah, humor and stuff. But I really don't like Josh's review of I'm Thinking of Ending Things. You guys talked about it last week. And
Oh yeah.
I will say, Roz, you did guess correctly. There is definitely like double meaning to the title. It's not just ending the relationship. It's a pretty like the movie's about suicide and like depression to me, but
Hmm.
uh I don't know. Josh has a very strong critical voice and he used it well in this review. But he just I don't know. It's not a bad review.
Also
Maybe I
interesting to
just
note...
disagree with it. It's just funny to me how like differently our perspectives of the movie and like opinions contrast. He says like he ends it with doesn't help that 70% of this takes place inside of a car, which I liked, and I would say it's probably closer to like 50% of the movie, but um I don't know. I liked the book a lot. I think it works better as a book, and I thought it was a really cool story. Um, but I'm also a big Charlie Kaufman fanboy, so I kind of went into it already vibing with like the tone and his previous movies, so I can respect Josh uh, for just kind of dunking on a movie,
Josh's
but
reviews are kind of like some of the... He's one of my go-tos to compare my reviews against his, because he usually has his... He reviews, like, everything.
yeah.
Also interesting to note, he always uses like three out of 5 stars for fucking everything. Like,
Well, his next most popular review is a 1 star of The Godfather, which is also a pretty spicy take, but a lot of people don't like that movie, so I don't. I,
way to call out one of our like random like users and just make a whole segment
oh,
about them.
he's not meant to be my answer to the question.
Lauren, are there any super noticeable distinctions between the book and the film? Because I struggled with I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and I actually am okay with Kaufman. I really love Eternal Sunshine. It's one of my favorite films. But I don't know, what stands out in the differences between the book and the film?
Um, well, it's still a pretty like dense literary movie. Like Josh makes a good point. There's just like a lot of stuff thrown at you and thrown at the audience, and like there's a part where she just goes on this monologue quoting this like film critic, but it's much more explicit in the book, I would say, and it's much spookier and a little more suspenseful. It's a very short book, and you can read it in like 2 sittings, I'd say. But
Okay.
um, yeah, I really like the vibe of that movie, but um, it's okay to not like it.
Does anyone else have
I
an answer to the question? I can go if no one else does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got kind of an answer for both of the questions. So I'll start with the second one. What's the best reviews we've seen? I personally like the little anecdotes of people say, like, experiences while watching movies. Like you see that pretty frequently. Like, I was watching this movie with my family and this happened. Like, this I don't know. I just like Letterboxd for all the like the stories people tell. And one such, which I think is going around actually, like kind of on meme pages and stuff, is one on Cruella, which kind of talks about how someone was tasered and stuff. It was from the user. Let me find it. Siegel or Seigel.
He's a top
Yeah,
reviewer on there. He writes a lot of good content.
yeah. I can't read out the whole review, but it talks about a story of two people who kind of get up in the middle of the showing, and it ends with one of them getting tasered and the police showing up and all kinds of hilarious bullshit. And yeah, I thought I just like those stories that I don't know. I find all the time on Letterboxd, just kind of poking around near the top.
Yeah.
Those ones that are kind of can take up half of a mobile screen, but aren't too hard to digest. For the second half of the question, sorry, do you want to go?
No.
For the second half of the question, I want to take another jab at. I apologize, Maria. I want to talk about Marvel again. I fucking hate Marvel reviews because they're always so positive. Like, I don't really have a problem with Marvel just because in personal experience, my personal experience has been pretty positive with it. But I hate I'm looking at some of the movies right now. Guardians of the Galaxy, the top 5 reviews have 2 5-star ratings in them. It's a good movie, but it's no fucking 5 stars. You find people freaking out over this shit, and like Fast and Furious movies and stuff. People that just because it connects to the rest of the series doesn't make it a fucking masterpiece.
A lot of that, though, is fandom loyalty, and I'm also not a fan of Marvel movies specifically for how they write women and just how they character arc women, but that's a whole nother. We're not going to talk about Marvel because, yes, we're not a pro-Marvel server. But I do understand and I respect a lot of the Marvel hype, I think, comes around the continuity between film to film, which if you're passionate about the characters, and especially if you're an original fan of the comics, I can understand why you'd be excited by that.
Another specific branch of this I hate is on the movies that aren't released yet, and people that are, like you said, part of that fandom will seek out these upcoming releases, which Letterboxd puts on their site well in advance.
Like morons.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, I kind of get it to a certain extent, but they're putting on Avatar 25, which won't be released until the world has been destroyed by fucking global warming. So, and people have already got 5-star reviews up there. This is gonna be. I just know it. I just know this is gonna be the best movie I've ever seen.
It's really weird when people do that with especially mainstream films, where their single comment will be, "This hasn't come out yet, but I already know it's going to be incredible," which goes against, I think, everything that watching a film is supposed to be as an experience, is going through it with a critical eye.
Can I add a contrasting positive or good review?
Sure.
Like one we've talked about it before, kind of recently actually, but it's for My Neighbor Totoro, which is like the opposite of Marvel, if you ask me, in terms of just sincerity. And the review is kind of repetitive, but the user David Jenkins wrote, "No plot, no central character, no antagonist, no defined purpose for side characters, no threat, no 3 acts, no jokes, no punchlines, no explanations, no internal references, no catchphrases, no polemical voice, no melodrama, no lessons, no beginning, no end. One of the best films ever made." And I just agree. I mean, they kind of repeat some things, but I don't know. I think it's a really solid movie, and I've liked it ever since I was little. So I'm kind of biased, but I think it holds up really well.
I love My Neighbor Totoro. It's my favorite Ghibli film for sure. It's incredibly wholesome, and it always reminds me that sometimes films don't have to be dark and discouraging because I think I watch too much depressing cinema. So
I'm just reading that
I
review
watched
now.
it. Is it good?
Oh,
Sorry,
it's so
yeah.
cute.
Yeah, it's pretty classic, like Studio
Yeah,
Ghibli
I
and
have.
Miyazaki. It was billed with Grave of the Fireflies,
Yeah.
like as a double feature right before it, which is a
Oh,
really interesting contrast of like Miyazaki's like style and even like narratives. But
Yeah, Grave of the Fireflies kind of wrecked me, even though it's very predictable. I think I got wrecked that for Roulette. That might have been even you, Mercy, that recommended that to me.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I gave that 4 stars. Yeah, I really like. I actually don't like doing that. I don't like kind of uh, diluting my thoughts on a movie down to a star rating when I'm talking about it. But I don't know. I feel like it's relevant.
I've heard
I,
that as a common critique of Grave of the Fireflies is its predictability, but I don't think that, I don't know, to me, the emotional journey that you take with the characters is what's more important. And even if you can, yes, predict or feels inevitable what's going to happen, it's almost more important to me that you take that journey with the characters along the way and you get to, I don't know, empathize with their experiences.
does anyone have any other answers to the question?
I
no.
will throw, I will just say that every once in a while I go back and I scroll through the reviews of a ghost story because there's some really funny one-liners in there. Like I
Oh,
think there's someone who
really?
at one point just says, "Holy sheet." And then someone makes a comment for Rooney Mara for the pie scene, and I'm like, honey, that's not how you eat pie. Like, there's just some really witty one-liners
Oh,
in what's such a sad film, and I adore, and it's incredibly nihilistic. But it's fun to see how people can poke fun at the really tender moments. So every once in a while, I scroll through those reveals, and they make me smile.
So we're going to start a new segment today. Hopefully, something that is sort of a long term, maybe maybe a long term segment that we do recurring every podcast. Do you want to explain what it is, Lauren?
sure. So there's this great list that gets a lot of traffic on the Letterboxd site by David Viss, it might be Vice, but uh, it's the official top 250 narrative feature films. So they've taken out all the documentaries, they've taken out all the concert films or like stage plays, shorts, and it's just, you know, long movies you go see in a theater, averaging their ratings based on everyone that's reviewed it. So there's some really popular movies, obviously, that get a lot of attention, but there's also a lot of um, more like avant-garde or a lot of foreign movies that just end up really popular in online discourse, I think. So
Yeah, it's
I've gotten
definitely more
exposed to
about
some cool
the.
movies there.
It's more focused on the ratings than the popularity. I think is the
Hmm.
main thing to note. So you won't find. You might, but I don't think you'll find many of the more popular, quote unquote, good movies like Damien Chazelle and stuff. Like it's definitely more of the obscure stuff. So
Yeah.
I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna go 3 by 3 and take the. So starting today, we're gonna take the top 3 movies on this Letterboxd 250 list, which is Parasite, Come and See, and The Godfather. So those are the 3 highest averages of scores on Letterboxd according to this list. So we're gonna go 3 by 3, going down the list, and kind of review them, talk about them. I don't know. Like we're just gonna see what happens. We might rank them or something. We're just gonna see how it's received, see how everyone likes it, maybe take suggestions on what we can change. Just purely a test run for this first episode. So yeah, we can start by talking about Parasite, directed by Bong Joon Ho, won Best Picture in 2019. I think was it 2019 or 2020?
2019.
yeah,
Yeah,
2019.
trying to think because they say the Oscars differently because it was a 2019 movie, but it won the 2020 Best Picture. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So what does everyone think about Parasite? Have you guys all seen Parasite? I think we've all seen that.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So anyone want to start off? Great.
No one wants to start off.
My
What should I say?
Okay. Someone call it.
Well, I'll
But
speak
what should we
to.
say?
Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna say I'll speak to as far as one of my personal favorite things is the fusion of genre. You have comedy and you have horror and you have thriller and you have a little bit of a taste of everything, which I think is one of the parts that makes it so appealing is because even if you're someone who's not familiar with Wong's work, you can dive a little bit deeper into how he stylizes characters differently within different genres. Like even have a little bit of a musical touch, right, where the sister is singing the song before she rings the doorbell. So there's little eloquent touches there that make this kind of a fusion of all sorts of different genres.
For as
No, but
abstract as, sorry, go.
oh yeah, no, I was gonna say that I don't know if it happened to you, but for me, experiencing Parasite was something really unique because I'm not used to this Asian humor. So while I discovered when I discovered Parasite, it was super cool to I don't know, it was a unique experience to see that it was kind of a dark humor, but in a Asian way. And I'm saying an Asian way because after I saw Parasite, I started to get into Asian cinema so much, like Japanese movies, Chinese movies, and Korean movies, and they all have this in common, like this sort of satirical humor that only Asian movies have. And it's very interesting because, as you can see, American movies that they all have this humor that is racist or based on stereotypes. These Asian people have their movies the same way, but with their own culture. So it's very cool to see that and to get to understand it more as you watch more Asian movies. So you get you start understanding more and more how these people think and how something is funny and why is it funny, even if we as a foreigners to Asian culture is are uh, far from understanding this in a cultural way. I think it's something interesting that I discovered, and I think it's very powerful, and I love it.
I really like kind of how accessible it is, despite how abstract it is, and it being a foreign movie, like you said. Like, I've shown this to a lot of my family members that have no connection to film whatsoever, and they strictly watch kind of English movies. I've kind of introduced them to sort of foreign movies and using subtitles with this movie just because it's so watchable and not easy to not easy to understand, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
it's not. It's easy in the sense that you can watch
Follow.
it and yeah, you can follow it, even though underneath the surface there's a lot more that you can kind of what's the word? You can kind of get a lot more from it if you're paying attention and
Yeah.
pay attention to the symbols. Sorry, go.
Bong Joon-ho is just a really competent director, and I think you can tell by how this movie flows and it in terms of like suspense, the story just keeps on building on top of itself. I really love the camera work and how much is how much time is just spent in a single location, how much importance is placed on just like humans and their labor and their like the space they literally take up. There's a really like it's honestly not that suspenseful compared to some other scenes, but I like the scene when the family is hiding underneath the table while the couple is like watching their kid out the window and they start having sex and it's really like awkward and funny
And they
while
can't do
also
anything.
being like
Yeah.
They just have
this
to
life
wait
or
it
death
out.
situation is how it feels. Yeah. It
Yeah, all that's on the line is really actually no, that's not true. I'm remembering it incorrectly. I was gonna say all that's really on the line is kind of like awkwardness, but that's not true. If they get caught, they like that's it. They have no ladder. This is their one chance. Like if they blow it,
But
then they're destined to kind of be stuck in the like the slums for the rest of their life.
Hmm. And it's just
You
kind of
know, one,
it's also kind of
yeah,
classic.
yeah.
Like end of the second act, they lose everything, and it feels like a really just well thought out story every step of the way.
Sorry, Marie. You know.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say that one of the directors that I can compare Bong Joon-ho with is this director called Park Chan-wook, that he made Handmaiden and Sympathy for Lady
Yes.
Vengeance and Old Boy. Like, if you take a look at these movies, they are almost in the same mood and intellect or direction as Parasite, and it's very interesting because, as I was saying, like Parasite is just one movie that I mean, I'm not gonna throw shit to it, but comparing this movie to The Handmaiden or Sympathy for Lady Vengeance is in the same level. So I just think that Parasite was lucky to get an Oscar and to get all the recognition because this guy Park Chan Wook was trying really hard with these movies and are in the same level. And it is the same. Like you get the same plot, the same satirical, the same twist, the same thrillering mood, and hilarious scenes that are awkward at the same time. So, I mean, I'm so glad Parasite was the movie that actually opened the eyes to all the Occidental culture. But I think that giving a look to Park Chang's book is also worth it if you're looking to get into more cinema like Parasite, because Parasite is not one of a kind. It is just one of the kind that already exists, but many people are not looking into it.
Yeah, and I think the Oscars, even though they're kind of switching it up, they kind of switched it up this year by giving Nomadland the win, which is arguably
Oh
not
yeah,
very watchable for, you know.
yeah,
I
yeah.
Completely disagree. I love Nomadland. I will die on that hill.
Oh, it's good, but
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
good.
accessible, is what I mean. To
Oh,
because
gotcha,
I
gotcha.
wouldn't show my family Nomadland and expect them to get any kind of enjoyment out of it. But I could show them Parasite, or I could show them Green Book, or I could show them Shape of Water. Like, despite what the Oscars want to kind of show us, it definitely seems to me like more of a popularity contest. But like what I was gonna say is I'm glad it's kind of switching it up from what I've seen, especially with not giving Trial any awards.
And it was, I mean, a
Yeah,
significant accomplishment too for Parasite to win as a foreign film because we've seen historically that the Oscars don't favor foreign films for anything that's a
Yeah,
mainstream
yeah.
award. So, which is very
and
unfortunate.
Chloe Zhao won Best Director, so
She did, yes.
just yeah, despite the Oscars getting kind of gradually worse production wise, I don't know. There's definitely good things happening, so I'm gonna keep watching.
I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
like one of my other favorite features of Parasite is and I don't know about Bong's work to know if he does this in other films, but I love his use of metaphor. Like I think water and the stairs, maybe like the radish smell. There's some more obvious things in there that he does, right, to point to class and classism and how that works for the contrast of the two families. But he also uses a knife and a rock and the pair of panties in the cars and other really small ways of kind of drawing out that juxtaposition as well.
Yeah, the smell thing you mentioned is pretty powerful because like yeah, it's just kind of it's the sort of thing that they can do nothing about. Like even no matter how much they do to kind of transform themselves, that smell kind of that the dad keeps mentioning is kind of a reminder how they're still sort of the parasite. Even though you could make a case that any one of the characters you could say is the parasite, the titular parasite in this story. I think that the smell that keeps the dad keeps reminding them of the smell. It kind of reminds them that they're the parasite. That no matter how much they pretend, he can smell the pore on them. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, also, how often does something sensory like that in a movie, I mean, smell specifically, play that much into the plot? Like, obviously, it's light and sound, but smell shows up in books sometimes to give you an idea about how often does like the distinct smell of people and the smell of spaces and
Yeah.
that sort of thing like play that deeply into the other themes of a movie. I
Yeah,
It
it's
thought,
almost
reminds
always used cheaply to kind of set the scene. Like, oh, it just stinks in here. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
sorry, go Mercy.
Oh, I was gonna say it reminds me too of the scene in Ratatouille actually where Remy takes a bite of the cheese and the strawberry together, and you have like the musical overload of the senses that
That's a
he's
great
experiencing
fucking
in that
example.
moment. Yeah, it's one of my favorite scenes in Ratatouille. That's a whole nother Pixar is a whole nother thing, but no, I agree with
Ratatouille
that. The
belongs
Yeah,
on the top 250,
I
but
totally
Oh,
agree though. Yeah.
Ratatouille is my favorite Pixar film, and we
Mhm.
we should do a whole discussion on that because we could talk about art in class with that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how to compare Ratatouille and Parasite? I mean,
Should we move
I
on to
mean,
the next film?
rats, and
we can joke about it, but it's not entirely wrong. I mean, you're right. They've got kind of similar themes. Anyway, so do we want to move on to the second movie, which is Come and See?
Sure.
So I'm pretty sure Lauren and Mercy, you haven't seen Come and See. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
pretend like I'm some film connoisseur that's seen all of these art house films, but I have seen Come and See. I really only watched it out of morbid curiosity. Yeah, so I'm not gonna play it off as if I would actively seek something out for the art value of it. Uh, yeah, I watched this like a year ago when I was just sort of getting into film, and I kind of watched it just because. So as a result of that, I don't think it really hit me as hard as it would have if I was, taking it seriously, for lack of a better word. The anti-war message, it hits pretty hard, but not as much as something like Johnny Got His Gun or whatever that's called. Like something where I would be watching it more for the message than, like I said, out of morbid curiosity. So as a result, the things that got me was more of the imagery. So like the bodies behind the village, which Maria, you've seen it, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
And like the
yeah. Of
church
course.
scene, just sort of the visual things was the most striking for me. Like the bleakness of everything. The main character, his transformation throughout the movie. At the beginning, he's very clearly just a young kid, and at the end, he's full of he's traumatized. His life has been permanently fucking scarred, as it would be. And the actor himself, the kid, those wrinkles, I could be wrong. I think some of them were prosthetic, but his hair went all gray and he started getting wrinkles just from the trauma of everything. Like they went all in on this movie. The cow they shot was a real cow, and they used real machine
Oh
gun
yeah.
bullets. I think that would fucking traumatize anyone. I would never, yeah, I would never walk on a movie set again after that. What do you think of this movie, Maria?
Uh, well, yeah, I thought it was very cruel and very powerful and heavy in content. I don't tend to get impressed easily, and this movie definitely impressed me. It was, it, I mean, I didn't. I kind of watched it because of the shock value, because I thought it was going to be, boorish and stuff like that, which I like. But I mean, any apart from being like that, it was more of a psychological journey that, I mean, if you're, well, in my case, I really felt empathy for these persons that were in front of my screen. uh it just transported me to that time, like how would it be to be in that situation. And you know i I just, I was watching it with pain in my chest. Like, oh my God, this cannot be real. Like, it was not only sad and depressing, but it was more like infuriating and actually made me mad. Like, how can people act this way, and how can they behave this way, and all of the stuff that was happening, and especially to all the women that were suffering heavy stuff. And there's some couple scenes. I mean, if you are sensitive, don't watch this movie because there are some scenes that are definitely painful to watch, because they not only did stuff to women and men but also to kids, like children, and it is like you can see what they're doing, and it's just painful and infuriating to watch and to get that through. But I mean, I didn't like it as a movie that I say, oh, I like it, but I thought it was a really good job and an incredible effort to make anti-war propaganda so people can see and feel and react to the war horrors that these people experienced. So I'm very glad that this movie exists, because otherwise I don't think I've seen a war movie that has portrayed war in the way that this movie shows it, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good summary of it. I don't really have anything else to add. So do we want to just kind of move on to the Godfather after that?
Yes.
All right. So who here has seen the Godfather?
I've
Not
seen it.
me.
Yeah,
Couple
I've
times.
seen.
Okay, so everyone but Mercy.
Sorry. Am I even a true film fan if I haven't seen The Godfather?
By definition,
Yes, you
no.
are. Yes, you are.
You can't be a film bro and not see The Godfather, though. It's definitely like quintessential film bro movie.
Yeah.
But I want to be a film woman,
As
so
long as
I
you've
think
seen,
it's
then-
okay.
have you seen Pulp Fiction and
I've not. I recently I created a
Your
list
film
on.
bro card.
I know. No, I created a list on Letterboxd recently that's like literally famous films that every film fan has seen, and I have not because I just have never made time for them. And it's like, yeah, Titanic, The Matrix, Pulp Fiction, Goodfellas. Like, there's a lot of random stuff on there. So
yeah. I had a list like that. I'm proud to say that I got through that list eventually. That 40 list. I made a list that was like I should watch one movie every day for the next 40 days of the year, because it was like near the end of November. So it was one movie that I should have seen already every day, and I got through it eventually, even though I quit halfway through. Like, I quit the challenge, but I watched all the movies.
Oh, yeah, that was a cool challenge. I remember talking to you about that.
Yeah.
sounds
That-
hard.
Was The Godfather on there?
I'd already seen The Godfather. The Godfather 2 was
Okay.
on there.
Well, The Godfather kind of hit at a pretty important time in like the history of movies, from what I've heard. The like very gritty, kind of 70s movies, were sort of countercultural, but movies, were showing some really bloody stuff, showing some mobs, showing some Godfathers getting shot. And Francis Ford Coppola made this now like kind of really famous movie. Got a really great actor, Marlon Brando, to kind of return, I guess, to movies.
It was one of the
And he's
first
kind of
movies that I've seen that's kind of... It kind of looks like a modern movie. Like, the cinematography
Mhm.
is very drastically different from other movies you'll see from that era, I find. And the lighting is more... I want to say ominous, but do you guys know what I mean? It just feels more cinematic. It's very much the quintessential cinema movie.
Yeah, it's cinematic. I agree.
Yeah, people much more eloquent than us have like obviously written books on it, but there's a really strong vibe to. I've only seen the first two, but all the Godfather movies like feel very grounded. The time you spend with like Michael Corleone, just over the first one, kind of starting the movie as a completely different person than the one he ends it as. It is like pretty compelling, I think. It really confused me the first time I saw it, just because it's one of those movies where like there's lots of named characters that are like dying off screen or doing the mob's dirty work, but
Yeah,
the main like
this is definitely one for the wiki to have while you're
mhm.
watching it.
Yeah, we watched in my like high school film club and we paused it halfway through and like drew a little like word map
Went
of
over it.
characters and I mean we were like eating pizza and stuff too, but it was helpful. I think that was like the second time I saw it, but I I honestly haven't seen them for a while, but they're kind of hard movies to avoid, um, just in the cultural like mind, I guess.
The most
They're like
recent,
referenced a lot.
yeah, the most recent time I watched it with someone on Discord, and every time something happened, we just kind of, since we had mics on, we were just kind of going over it, like, okay, that person was the person who, I don't know, that was the person who punched Michael in that last scene or whatever, like, just so we kind of had an idea in our head of who we were kind of watching.
Mhm.
Just because I'm a bit of
Maria,
an idiot when it comes to keeping track of characters and like names and stuff, and like you said, like
mhm.
just a lot of name characters being thrown around.
Yeah. Maria, how do you feel about The Godfather, the first one?
I liked it. I actually watched it like 2 years ago, not long ago.
Mm.
So actually, we just watched it because I feel pressure that I have seen many movies, but not that one. So I watched Godfather 1, Godfather 2, and Once Upon a Time in America the same week. And I am not disappointed. I actually liked it. It was very enjoyable, very a very easy film, like to follow and to enjoy in a Sunday
Yeah,
evening.
it's very daunting, but at least it's pretty dis- disregarding all of the named characters. It's pretty.
Mm.
Like you said, it's
Yeah.
pretty easy to follow, to be honest. And
Mhm. If
speaking
someone
of,
isn't Oh,
sorry,
I
go
was
on.
just gonna say, if someone isn't like talking and like if there's not exposition, it's like a silent shot of a character, and you're like supposed to be thinking about what they're thinking about. It's very like it's not handholdy in the way they kind of just take you from scene to scene, but it has a really great momentum and like I I think most like I mean I saw it as a teenager. If you're like 13 and pay really close attention, like I feel like you could follow this movie. It's pretty gripping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually do have an issue with this movie. And it's actually something that contrasts what you said earlier, Lauren, which is that the Michael Corleone arc was like satisfying. I really disagree. I think it's way too abrupt. I had an example on top of my head that it reminds me of. I need to think of it. They kind of swap from good to, oh yeah, Walter White. I don't like his arc either. It seems he turns from kind of he spends the first half of the movie being this character that we know, right? And he's the same character for the first half. Then he has this one thing that happens to him that gains the respect of other people, and then now he's this respected mob boss with a will of iron or whatever, you know. Same thing that happens in Breaking Bad. I don't want to spoil Breaking Bad, but I think it's pretty well known what happens. Walter White starts as this mild mannered teacher guy, and he eventually ends up a drug lord. But that gap between the time of the significant event that happens at the end of season 4 and the beginning of season 5 is just very abrupt to me, and that's the same kind of vibe I get from The Godfather. Is when he comes back from Italy and he kind of goes up to his old girlfriend. I think her name is like Kay or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he has a totally different energy to what he had the rest of the movie, which was very jarring to me. I personally didn't like that. It kind of lost me a bit. My suspension of disbelief, I guess, was just kind of a little
Interesting.
yeah. That's a very unpopular opinion though, so I'm open to change my mind on that in the future after a few more rewatches. I've seen it about 3 times, I think.
So, next, we're going to talk about a Netflix special that was released just a few weeks ago by Mr. Bo Burnham himself. Bo Burnham is a musical comedian, and a lot of people know him from where he originally started on YouTube. He was known a little bit on Vine as well. And he's had 3 stand-up performances, which I believe only 2 of them were made into actual like recorded productions. So he has Words, 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 and What Make Happy. Some people also know him from his direction of 8th Grade, and then most recently he co-starred in Promising Young Woman. But Inside is a project that he undertook where he filmed himself. He's done all of the editing, the production, direction, uh, writing, producing, all of the above for this special that focuses solely on him in the context of his own home and kind of what it means to have life in a pandemic, which is what we've been experiencing globally for the last now, gosh, year and a couple of months, whatever it's been. So we're going to do a little bit of a discussion on this. We brought it up last week, and now everyone on the show today has had a chance to see it. And yeah.
I think it's important to note,
Cool.
you briefly touched on it. This is very focused on him being trapped in his own room. Like that's the main kind of separator from this and other musical comedy specials. It's what makes it unique. It's all in the same room, or like the whole special, and not just in a stand-up kind of way where you stand up and you do a comedy special, but like it's a whole production. Like it's a whole movie, but just sets in one room. All the sets.
Yeah.
What's interesting
It's also
about it? Sorry, go.
it's also important in context, which is something he talks about in one of the last pieces, All Eyes on Me. But Mr. Burnham, I need to stop calling him that. We'll just call him Bo. But he took a break from comedy for, I believe it's 5 years, because he started having panic attacks during the end of his Make Happy tour. And so this to emerge 5 years later with an entirely solo project of this magnitude is really, really impressive just for anyone who's been following his career and know that he basically went off the map. With the exception of, like I mentioned, he was doing some cinema work. But as far as like actual comedy and sketches, nothing like that.
So just before we get into it, I just want to issue a quick spoiler warning for anyone who hasn't yet had the chance to see this special. It's on Netflix. I mean, you can go watch it. It's pretty short and really digestible. So if you have an afternoon, put it on. It's really good. I think everyone in this room at least recommends it. So yeah, check it out. Spoiler warning, we'll be talking about it in depth.
I was gonna just say, having been like a longtime fan, I was like a teenager when my friend showed me his YouTube videos, and he actually had another like hiatus, like in his early 20s, where he just wasn't, didn't post anything. That was like his main out, window out to the world for a while. Was this like solitary YouTube channel? But back when YouTube was like just a single person, making the videos. It's him playing piano, and writing songs. But I mean, that was the YouTube video, and it's just kind of cool to see this. He did the kind of reclusive thing again for a bit, not to like over romanticize the actual like pain that people with like anxiety and depression kind of deal with, but it's a really bizarre time to be a performer, and this special really gets into like how we live on the internet and experience the world through that kind of portal, which I think is really interesting.
Mercy, last week we briefly spoke about Inside, and you kind of talked about how how its quality kind of technically and artistically, and kind of if you don't like his comedic style or the themes he tackles in his lyrics, that you should watch it for the artistic value, and how it is kind of an example of a good output even confined in your own home, like someone who goes through the creative process without, like, even though being limited, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I think that Bo is really cool as a comedian because he's never shied away from topics that are on the socio-political spectrum in terms of intensity, which, a lot of people listen to comedy as a method of escapism. And so that's not everyone's style when it comes to comedy, and that's totally understandable. But yeah, I'm echoing what I said last week in terms of it's a technical masterpiece for someone to produce something of this magnitude as a solo project. From writing and directing alone to, right, then you have cinematography and then you have editing, and to make it funny above all else and also relatable and understandable. And it really does encapsulate in a lot of ways, I think, the COVID experience that so many of us have had and maybe not been able to kind of see represented in media.
Maria, I'm kind of curious how, because you're like a professional creative, and like, did that kind of part of like Bo's experience resonate with you, or was it really different?
Yeah, I don't know how much to say about this, but uh, yeah, speaking as a creative person myself, it was cool. I mean, I liked it. I like how he created that stuff, and touching topics like depression and loneliness, but making them look and sound funny or artistic. It is an art, not many people can do that. But I don't know. I didn't love it. I mean, I don't understand the hype over this movie because I don't think it's that special. Um, Personally, I'm on TikTok. Like I watch a lot of TikToks, and I've seen at least 1,000 TikToks singing this type of songs or this type of content, where you're just making fun of depression. And I follow like, I don't know, 10 or 12 people that I like because they are always uh, throwing out songs out of depression and anxiety and social awkwardness. So watching this movie was like spending 1 hour and 30 minutes on TikTok with just one guy that I enjoyed. I'm not gonna say that I didn't, but he's not special to me. Like, yeah, okay, depression sucks, and we're all depressed and whatever. But that's it. I mean, I think that the thing that makes this guy relatable to everyone is that he's actually using all the more popular opinions on the internet to make songs about them, and he's just one of 1,000 people that is also doing the same stuff. So I don't know. I don't think it's special in any way. Like, it is just, for me, it's just another person who's struggling with that, and it's just expressing in an artistic way, and that's it. So I mean, I'm not gonna take credit for. I mean, I'm not gonna discredit him for doing that because it is cool and awesome. But I just don't think that it is like the best thing that I've ever seen. Yeah, that's what I think.
That's a pretty like interesting take on it. Like, I kind of understand. Like, I kind of understand what you mean because when I first watched it, I gave it like a 4 stars, mainly for the artistic value of it. Like, I didn't really connect with me in the same way it seemed to be connecting with everyone else. But I did enjoy it, and the songs were really catchy, and the lyrics were kind of they were meaningful. But the first time I watched it, I wasn't really paying attention to the lyrics. I just kind of had it on in the background. I was enjoying the bops. But the second time I watched it, it was way more kind of intimate. I had it on my larger screen. I actually sat down and I paid attention to it. Like, I had on subtitles. I was reading all the lyrics as he said them. Yeah, I bumped it up from a 4 star to a rare 5 stars for me. I really really feel connected to this. Like, even though I have completely different experiences, even though I don't suffer from that kind of mental health, and as an Australian, I didn't really have that same extended period of quarantine that affected so many Americans. But yeah, this special, it really kind of resonated with me, and it's really attractive to me. And I've seen it at least 3 or 4 times. I just really love it. I can't stop going back to it, even without, even disregarding the special itself. The songs, each one of the songs could play on the radio and get on the charts. Like, I think we're going to talk about some of the songs later, more specifically. But a lot of the songs kind of replicate the style of music that goes on the radio. It's just a wide variety of genres of video and song that he uses. Like the white woman's Instagram song is sorry. I'm thinking of the well, there's that one, and also the FaceTiming with my mom song is very reminiscent of radio songs, like just pop songs from like 2015. I don't know that's what it reminded me of.
He's really good at writing kind of earworms, and one of my first introduction to him is this song called Words, 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 and the chorus is like, I hate catchy choruses and I'm a hypocrite. And it's really catchy. It really gets stuck in your head. But Maria, I definitely hear that kind of like just kind of tiredness of the irony and the sardonic kind of humor. I really like how his previous live shows kind of communicate that, but he's also still very animated, and like he's just a really entertaining person on stage. As someone who's just rewatched these recordings of him on stage, I guess, but it's really impressive to me, just how that he keeps that like humor up while also addressing his depression. There's a really,
I think it's a special kind of charisma to be able to be
and it also takes a lot of courage just to be like, I'm going to tell this joke about suicide, and then here's a disclaimer, like, okay, really please don't commit suicide, like, and earnestly kind of making this case to the camera. What I love that he does with that bit then is takes it like one step further back and shows himself watching himself tell himself not to commit suicide. And like there's a projection of that recording as well right on his chest, and he's just gotta like, you kind of just get the feeling that he's trying so hard to like
take his own advice.
Take his own advice, but also like he kind of admits that like the special is like the only thing that like keeps him going some days, it seems like. And I really appreciated that like kind of behind the scenes look at his thought process, I guess, because he's done some like darker songs and political stuff before, but like this special has the most like straightforward, like this song is about politics, like talks about communism, talks about like exploited labor, and like it's also still really funny, and like I laughed my ass off at Sako.
No, I need to stop you. I need to stop you right there. Before you continue. Okay, so I mean, I don't want this to be rude or anything, but I mean, you guys, Ross, Lauren, Dancing Panda, you are like white and from very privileged countries. So I guess that's why you are seeing these topics like a huge thing, like a very important thing, which in my country is not that bad, So in my experience and all my friends and all the people here in my country, consuming that type of content where we're always laughing about suicide or murders or getting killed or getting murdered or committing suicide or just being fucked up or how shitty is our life. It is just a common thing, So that's all the content we're consuming all the time. So for me, watching Bullman do that stuff was like, oh, another guy. Just this time he's American, and listening to you speaking on how impressive and how brave he is and stuff like that. It just makes me feel like kind of mad because I mean, it may be huge for you, or it may have importance for you as a privileged country to, be aware of mental health and stuff like that. But in countries like mine, that doesn't happen, and that's just a normal joke that everyone laughs about. So watching Bowman here is just like, oh, yeah, this guy is funny. Just another guy who's funny about suicide and mental health.
I definitely like acknowledge that privilege that I have of coming of age in like a very wealthy country, and one where mental health is a pretty popular topic of like concern and conversation. But
everyone is talking about this stuff and making songs about depression and stuff, and even the editing is super cool and all. So I just think that this movie isn't that special because of that matter. But as I said, I don't want to discredit him for his artwork. I mean, he did that, and it was super cool. But at the same time, he's just one more of those people. You know? That's what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah, that's
it's
super,
cool, but
super valid. Mercy, what do you think? Are we giving both too much credit?
I'm gonna be honest. I think that the commodification of mental health in general is something that he actually addresses in his work, and I would also say that I don't think that Bo is trying to speak outside of anything except his lived experience, and there's something to be said for, on the one hand, we don't want him to speak to topics or experiences that are not his own, right? And so this production is inherently, it's an expression of himself and what he's felt that the last year has been. And I don't know that, frankly, that discredits or that takes away from the struggles of other countries, of other nations who, frankly, to this day are in a much worse situation than America currently is in terms of quarantine, in terms of vaccine distribution and availability, all of those factors. So since art is usually such an intimate expression of personal experience, I think that your critique is valid, but I also would say that he might exclusively be speaking out of what he knows for himself from what he has experienced.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. I agree with that.
I mean, he takes pretty, well, what it seems like to my dweeby brain. Oh crap! I just dropped my phone. It seems like he takes pretty calculated jabs at like modern society and like capitalism in general. Like even he might not have the kind of experiences of the working class that you guys might have, but like Mercy said, I feel like from the experiences he has, I think it's a pretty honest reflection. Like, it's a pretty intimate portrait of his experience in quarantine. Like, yeah.
Can I bring up another film just for comparison? There's a really brilliant documentary that Jafar Panahi made. He's an Iranian. He made a movie called "This Is Not a Film" in the early 2010s, but he was banned from producing film. So it is kind of him. It starts out as him like acting out this movie he had planned about a young woman who was is kept in her home by her family, but he kind of like ends up breaking down and like stopping it, and he's like, well, this is not my experience, like, and just kind of it really it kind of becomes a testament to like filmmaking in authoritarian state, and like I think it's really powerful and I really like it. But I do think Bo was doing something similar here. He was catapulted to success because of the internet, managed to like hang on to Netflix's coattails and like ride that Netflix train to stardom. Now he's making actual like Hollywood movies, but like like the prison that like the people with depression, like their brains are, like that's what my brain is like sometimes, is really like debilitating. But he's still kind of kept himself to this like year-long, I mean, he kind of gives himself a year, and he takes that time and produce something just like pretty unique, I think, in terms of like long form, cohesive. Like there's lots of variety,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
in the interest of time, does anyone have any like
Mhm.
closing thoughts? Like before we move on to if we want to talk about some of the songs.
No.
I think we can probably just move on. Let's not keep
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh
that's-
gosh,
listeners waiting.
I-
They're probably all.
I forgot that we were gonna do this.
I love the internet song. It was so funny
Yeah.
from
Well-
inside, and it was super catchy.
Yeah. It has a really good like bridge, like 2/3 of the way through, where it talks about how the plan like the whole time was to put the world in your hand. Like I thought that was a really good line.
Mhm. Yeah, like the internet is like programmed to make it feel like you're the main character, and everyone wants to know, what you're thinking and pictures of what you're doing.
Yeah. It's clearly written from the perspective of someone who's had experience with the internet. It's not. It's clearly different from something like the Mitchells versus the Machines, and while it's kind of relatable, it's very noticeable that he has experience using the internet. Like, it's not. Yeah.
Also, just in terms of like songwriting, if we're gonna go over kind of like what makes these songs special, but
Mhm.
Bo writes really catchy like hooks
Yeah.
for the choruses. That this one goes, apathy's a tragedy and boredom is a crime, as like this kind of like motto of the internet.
Yeah.
And it just really fits. It kind of sums up the song, but it also doesn't get annoying after he sings it 4 times.
And talking about the actual composition of the music, I really like the use of what do you call it, the glockenspiel in the background, the banging on the. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? That little background. It's like a piano, but it's wooden and it's really big.
The
You
same?
smack it with a stick. I can't replicate the sound with my mouth without sounding like an idiot. But if you listen to the background of the song, you'll know what I'm talking about. And I can't even describe it, but it goes a long way to making it feel more playful and like more villainy. I was reading some of the reactions to the song and just kind of like comment sections across social media, and I think a lot of them really nail it on the head. The first half of the song before the bridge is very much. It sounds very villain-esque, like.
Yeah, like a Disney villain.
Yeah. Just the way he delivers the line and his costuming and the sunglasses all just contributes to that kind of vibe.
Yeah, he has this really hammy persona for that song.
Mhm. I think
I also really
sort of brought back from the Unpaid Intern song. It kind of had the same look.
Yeah, maybe. I was gonna say in terms of like personas, I really like early in the special. We talked about it a little bit, but the way of the world, oh god,
That's the way the world works.
that's the way the world works. Is that it?
I think that's how the world works.
That's how the world works. Yeah.
That is how the world. Yeah.
Kind of like Mr. Rogers.
Oh yeah. Wait, you're right. Yeah.
Jim Henson character singing this, like, seems like a kid's song about,
Yeah.
and he's like describing communism, like the
But he
birds and the
starts
bees
with,
completely work together, and everyone contributes what they can and gets what they deserve, and then there's this kind of correction of
with Socko.
uh-huh.
That's one of the funniest parts of the whole special.
Yeah.
I can't
and
even.
and also
again.
just to he definitely addresses that kind of like just the podium that he's speaking down from. He says, well, I really want to become a better person, I want to do the right thing, and Sako comes back like, aren't you listening to what I'm saying? Like, This isn't about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to listen to the lyrics again to kind of. I haven't heard it in like a week. Actually, like paying attention to it now, but yeah, I agree. Some of the soccer dialogue is probably some of the more insightful stuff in the whole special. At least for me, that sort of that was more of the that was in the beginning half of the special, which was sort of more just saying socially relevant things in a funny way, whereas the second half of it was more talking about mental health.
Hmm. Mercy, do you have a favorite song?
I have a lot of favorites. I really like A Funny Feeling. Surprisingly, I really like Turning 30 because I like how he plays with generational differences. It kind of comes in
Oh,
different bits and pieces. Like, he
that's
makes a joke.
amazing.
Yeah. Oh. Uh, he makes a joke about, kids and their phones are poisoning their minds in this new generation, and it comes back in the internet song where he talks about like this was made for you, insatiable you. So he plays a lot with generational differences and how he's kind of seeing full circle the way that he used to make fun of the generation older than him. He's now seeing himself become the same thing that he himself critiqued.
Funnily enough, that's like my least favorite. I made a ranking of all the songs, and besides the credit song, I think I have that at the very bottom. I just feel like the combination
Wait
of
until you
it.
turn 20.
What'd you say?
So wait until you turn 20.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but I can't relate to a lot of the stuff he says, and it still resonates
Uh-huh.
with me. But
Sure.
at the same time, I didn't think it was funny. Like, I get that I'm not 20, like, and I don't have that
Mhm.
same doesn't have the same effect on me. But at the
What
Hmm.
same
about the
time,
what
it
about the spite? Do you feel spite towards peers maybe jumping ahead? He's, I think the lyrics like my stupid fucking
my
friends and
stupid
their stupid
friends, I
fucking
have
Oh
kids.
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It just didn't hit me as much as the other
No.
ones. The song isn't as much of an earworm as the rest of them. Just like
Mhm.
yeah, it's the only one that I wouldn't listen to in a playlist. Like, it just the lyrics aren't insightful enough to justify it for me. Like
Well, I thought
Understandable.
the
I
funny
wouldn't
feeling song definitely really sticks out as like the guitar song, and um,
mhm.
I thought that was a really good choice.
I wouldn't listen to like white woman's Instagram or like FaceTiming with my mom. Like
White Woman's
it,
Instagram has been stuck in my head, but I want it
yeah,
out.
but they have the lyrics to kind of justify it. Like, I can at least get something from listening to that because they're funny or insightful, but Turning 30 just has nothing for me, you know?
I mean, I think that that's again speaks to a little bit of his insightful writing though, because there's different levels of relatability throughout. And some of his songs, honestly, like I think Welcome to the Internet, probably White Woman's Instagram, like some of these are a little bit more quote unquote accessible in terms of understanding, but I think the farther along you get in the special, like that funny feeling especially, and then all eyes on me, he speaks to his own lived experience again. So there's layers to that there.
I want to talk about White Woman's Instagram because there's a moment about halfway through that really kind of. What's the word? I don't want to say resonates with me again because I've said that like 50 times. Uh, how do I introduce this? I want to talk about White Woman's. Can someone
What?
It's really
help
Yeah,
me
what are we
out?
saying?
Help me out, guys.
I can't
Fuck.
read your mind.
Yes, you
well,
can.
so white women, they're a large demographic on Instagram,
So Mercy, you're a
and
white woman.
there's a very like strong aesthetic style that's easy to make fun of, and I personally really like how much fun it looked like to like shoot these bits. He like cuts back to it later, but there was some really cool. It's a very colorful like arts and craftsy section, but it kind of speaks to the surface level nature of Instagram and visual social media like that. But there's definitely I guess it is sort of the bridge um, that you want to talk about, Roz.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having a mind blank kind of describing the song, but just the specific moment that happens in the middle of it is what I want to talk about. There's a part where the whole song, the video of the song is kind of set in a 1-to-1 aspect ratio, which kind of matches the Instagram kind of squares, like all photos that are uploaded are kind of in a square. And the video is filmed sort of like that to kind of, why the Instagram photos, he poses like stereotypical white women on posting on Instagram. Sorry, I just gotta shut
It's
my fucking
really
door.
cool. It's really cool how he transitions in that song because you have the 1:1 Instagram aspect ratio, and you notice that he transitions as he's kind of coming in and out of the girl supposedly writing an Instagram caption to her mob.
That's what I was
This
gonna say.
picture of this picture of authenticity between the shifting aspect ratio between what she posts and what she might be feeling.
Yeah, the aspect ratio opens up as you kind of feel the girl writing is kind of being more authentic to, and she's not just kind of putting on a front for Instagram. Is kind of how I interpreted it. Like once the aspect ratio went back to 1-to-1, it was kind of back to talking about goat cheese salad and latte art and shit that doesn't really matter to her. Oh, I say her as the person, as the stereotypical figure
Abstract.
that Bo is kind of referring to. That there's a moment where he talks about the mom that passed away, and it just hits me. It's emotional.
How do you guys feel about out of curiosity, some of the more, I don't want to say less popular songs, but I know
the more bite-sized ones.
Well, I was gonna say I'm thinking of like sexting and some of the transition ones that I think aren't as popular in terms of the content that he's actually introducing. How do you guys feel about those?
Sexting is the most surface level one in the whole special.
But it's also like a parody of a pretty vapid, like surface level form of communication, and like he's parodying like kind of SoundCloud like music and that really chill online vibe that is supposed to be sexy, but like it's kind of just weird.
I think I want to talk about that a little bit, because that thing I need to applaud that for him, because I'm not much into comedy, and I don't tend to watch comedy at all, and even less comedy if they're for men. And when he started to sing that song about sexting, I thought that he was going to go to those places where, I don't know, he just make stereotypes jokes about the sexting, and he actually addressed it very respectfully. I was like, oh my god, this is the first time I'm hearing a man refer to sexting to some girl in a very respectful way, because he wasn't he wasn't singing about sexting with women or men or anything, any person in particular, he was talking as if he was talking to one person. Yeah, like to one person that he already knew. So I don't know, it felt very respectful, like he was addressing that person that nobody is going to know. So he's just like, oh yeah, show me your boobs, and that's it, like no more stereotypes or nasty jokes. It was just like respectfully doing something with someone who they already know and consent to that. So I was like really impressed, and I actually like that part a lot. I was like, wow, this is good. this is good stuff.
Also, the Eraser Face reference is fucking hilarious.
That made me laugh out loud.
Do you want to talk about any of the other ones before we wrap up? I want to talk about the comedy song, because that's my favorite of the bunch. The Healing the World with Comedy one, the one that's near the very beginning. Not only is it obviously the most catchy of all of the songs, I will not be debating on that, because it's objectively true. It's the best. It's another one that's kind of very surface level with its message. Like he's trying to he's trying to tackle issues while, it kind of speaks to what you were saying earlier, Maria, how like he can't really talk about. I don't think Maria said. I think it was Mercy that was talking about how he's only able to kind of talk about his own experiences, and that's outlined very clearly in the song. Like he's talking about he's just a white guy, but he wants to kind of enact change, but he it's kind of difficult for him because he has to kind of dodge topics that he's not kind of competent in, but at the same time, do you guys know what I'm trying to say? Like he's outlining the
Yeah, he's a white guy. He
I don't
should
know how to
shut the
phrase
fuck
it
up or
correctly.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's probably the most plain example of it. He doesn't want to shut the fuck up, but also he doesn't know exactly how to do it without being a money seeker. You know what? The message is pretty plain if you listen to the song. Exactly what he's trying to say, and I think that's it outline. Can someone follow up on that? I don't really know what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because I think that in these days, saying something about those topics that he talked about is kind of can offend someone. So yeah, I agree. That song was like the introduction that he's a white man and he's only joking and that he should shut the fuck up and all that stuff. And it was cleverly put in the beginning of the movie, I think,
Yeah, I was gonna
because
say it's
he's
a very
like
fitting intro song.
saying, yeah, he's like
It kind
saying,
of
"Oh,
felt
don't
like,
take me serious, please."
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it keeps that ironic twist to a lot
Yeah,
of his songs. It kind of felt like me to like maybe the first song and like sequence he really finished and like was maybe feeling confident about. It has a very like uh very kinetic in like the camera and the cuts, and there's stuff on the whiteboard, like pause if you want to read it all. But I like the
oh yeah,
visual joke, the Venn diagram on the board with Malcolm X and Weird Al, and
Yeah.
then it has me written in the middle, like this. Uh,
Yeah,
he has this
yeah.
idea of himself in his head that he has to, and it also kind of like plays on the classic like rap songs that are about like how great you are. Like he has to hype up himself, and he hears like the voice of God telling
I'm a
him
special
like,
kind
"Oh,
of
your
white
your art,
guy.
your comedy is so healing, and like it's gonna nurture the world. So just keep it up, keep doing it."
Yeah. It's kind of
yeah,
yeah. You're right. It's a
yeah.
reassurance to himself, like, and that's kind of followed up in like that same kind of idea is followed up in the problematic song where he's kind of addressing how a lot of the stuff he's done is it might be vaguely shitty, but like like what's he supposed to do about that? I don't know. I don't really
One
want
of
to.
the
I don't really want to talk about that topic because I don't know what I'm saying and I don't want to accidentally say something that's wrong. So
Well, I was gonna say that's one of the things that I actually appreciate the most about Bo's sense of humor is, I think that people have critiqued him for Inside for saying that like his self-awareness has gotten to the point where it's no longer self-awareness because he's so overexhausted it. But the sequence, for example, where he's reacting to himself and then reacting to his reaction, right, with the different screens, and he says at one point, I think it's something like self-awareness does not absolve anyone of anything, which I mean, like you were saying, Rowan, it goes back to that the idea of being problematic and him asking his audience very literally like hold me accountable and call me out on the things that you see that I'm doing that are wrong because I'm making this for you, right? Which then goes back to the beginning of like the content that I'm creating is for you and I am nothing, my career is nothing, I don't exist without basically you making my platform what it is. So I don't know. I think that that's a level of self-awareness that I can support because it's very rare often that we have specifically content creators who are asking their audience to give them that level of accountability.
yeah,
Oh
and
yeah.
sorry, you want to say something? Uh,
No, no, no.
I didn't really kind of the first time I watched it, I didn't really kind of get what he was like talking about. Like I thought he was just doing the classic, I say offensive stuff, don't get offended, But then I watched Make Happy, and I think I kind of got what he was kind of saying, because he has this one part where he uses the F slur pretty excessively, and at that time, like, that was okay, but like it's obviously not now, like not okay, but you know what I mean? Like it was socially
Not politically
acceptable
correct.
to use
Yeah.
that word, but yeah, that kind of opened my eyes in terms of like what he was trying to say in that particular song. Like, it's like, okay, I kind of get it now.
I like that Bo like to some extent owns up to these like problematic, jokes in the past. And there's a joke at the beginning of Make Happy, which only came out in 2015, that really trivializes like the Israel-Palestine conflict. He's like, "What are they fighting about?"
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, it's pretty obvious to anyone like actually listening and paying attention, but the common media narrative just 6 years ago here in the States was like, yeah, who fucking cares,
They're just
basically.
fighting.
Uh-huh. So he's definitely had that self-awareness before, but I think it's cool he's kind of committed to this like form of just like songwriting and trying to be funny and make people laugh. And he made a really interesting movie about like technology and its effect on like teenagers, because that's kind of what he experienced. But you don't need to make like a biopic about yourself. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. Yeah, eighth grade unfortunately didn't age very well, in my opinion.
Ooh.
But
I would love to hear some more
that's a
about
conversation for
that.
another day. I think for the
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we can probably wrap it up there, though. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Rowan. You can find me on Letterboxd at Roses. We'll probably set up a Twitter for the actual podcast. But for now, you can follow me personally at Rowan_Roz. So my co-hosts are.
Maria. You can find me on Letterboxd as Maria ROM.
And I'm Mercy. You can find me on Letterboxd at literally_Mercy.
I had a lot of fun being here. I'm at LiloZap on Letterboxd.
Yeah, so you can find all of us in the Watch and Wine Discord server. You can listen to these podcasts live. You can submit questions. Not only that, but it's just a great community in general. Movie themed, obviously, with a specific focus on foreign movies, horror, art house. If you're into that kind of thing, check us out. But we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Watch and Wine podcast. Make sure to Google our Discord server, Watch and Wine, to meet us and listen to these podcasts live. You'll also meet a ton of other like-minded users who love film just as much as you do. And as always, have a good one.
And I'm Mercy. You can find me on Letterboxd at literally_Mercy.
Sorry, I got a note. Someone pinged me. Who pinged me? I'll fucking kill you. Maria.
Oh fuck! I did. Sorry. Yeah, I did.
Maria!
I didn't know it would sound in your computer. Why do you have it silent?
I do now. Go ahead. Everyone shut up.
All right.